What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Jake Shavink here, and a special Packers mock draft Monday for you guys. Two Packers mock drafts in this video. One just going traditional, no movement at all on the board, and then the second one we will trade maybe multiple times to see how it goes for the Packers. So we'll start here with the straightforward mock draft, 7 rounds, and I think at 23. There are going to be a lot of options, right? A lot of the receivers, I think, are going to be available there, right? You could talk about offensive line, right? Josh Simmons has been a popular one here. My personal favorite, of course, Colston Loveland. We're not going to do that, of course, but I think if Derek Harmon is available for the Green Bay Packers at 23, I think he's got to be the pick, simply because I think he can help the Green Bay Packers on the defensive line from multiple alignments. He's going to be able to take on double teams as a one technique while aligned there. He's going to be able to get after the quarterback as a pass rusher, right? He does great work against the run when it's one-on-one when he's aligned as the 3 tech. So all of that, I think, really translates, right? He has, plenty of pass rush moves to get into the backfield. We just have to turn more of those pressures into sacks, more of that early disruption in the run game to tackles for losses. If he cleans that up, I think you're getting a really, really great player here for the Packers at 23. So Derek Harmon's going to be the pick here to start things out. It's very hard to pass on him. Now, in the second round, I think it gets a little more difficult for Green Bay just because Benjamin Morrison, do we trust, the medicals at all? Otherwise, the passer rating allowed, 58, 60, and 29, is really impressive. He's got, I think, the best film of anybody against Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Could Green Bay surprise us with a linebacker, Carson Schwessinger, as a player who's in the 240s at the linebacker position for sure? I think if they go corner, though, I have a feeling it's going to be Darian Porter, simply because big, right, athletic, right, is still learning in that sort of transition of being recruited as a receiver and making that transition to cornerback, but clearly did a lot of great work in 2024. And, I think that's going to be the direction here just because, again, Green Bay loves to make those big swings. We didn't really do it in the first. We kind of grabbed a good player without that massively high ceiling and limited production. Whereas here, it's going to be the opposite. Darian Porter at corner here. Now, I think in the third round, I think it kind of lines up really nicely for Green Bay here. Obviously offensive line could be in that, conversation. They don't really take guards. Now they take, tackles who look like they're going to be guards at the next level. Wyatt Malum is a great example of that. And I think Jared Wilson was a popular one until free agency. Kyle Williams would be awesome here. He's a little bit lighter. I think Green Bay is going to lean Jalen Royals just simply because of the size. Again, that's something they covet at the wide receiver position unless they really, really, really like somebody like Jaden Reed, right? So Royals, some pretty good work against press. He's done a nice job at the catch point. He's a good yak player. I think there's a lot more to iron out. He's not my favorite player at the receiver position, but I get some of the excitement around him. So he's going to be the pick here at 87. As we get to 124, obviously edge becomes something you want to look at. Could double up at wide receiver now as well. But I'm going to lean more into potentially doubling up at corner. I know that's crazy to think about, but again, if Ja isn't going to be on this team, it's hard for me to pass up on Noah Williams. Plenty of size, plenty of physicality on the boundary, right? And I think he, in that duo, I know Kyle Williams is still here, but you add Darian Porter, who's still working on the technique and you believe in that upside, and then you get a player like Noah Williams who can, I think, come in right away and help your team out at boundary corner. 2 corners, I know maybe not addressing the front 7 as early as we would like to in terms of edge rusher, but I think this is a pretty strong start. As we get here at 159, at this point, if Kyle Williams is going to continue to hang out here, I'm going to make that pick for them simply because, again, the release game is really, really good. He's got, deep threat ability to him. I think the hand technique is the one thing that concerns me a little bit more, which is why, again, Ty Felton's another one that could be interesting here. But if they're going to let Kyle Williams fall this far, I will make that pick. I will make that pick. In terms of edge rushers available at 198, I think it's going to be, if he's here, yeah, it's going to be Fadil Diggs from Syracuse. Some decent bend. Obviously, you see a 15.1% pass rush win rate. That's pretty strong there. He is 6'3", 6'4", I think, somewhere around there, and 257. I know that's correct. So I think he's got the size, the Packers might like, right? Kingsley Enagbare is 258. Brenton Cox hangs out in the 250s, right, as well. So I do think Fadil Diggs is somebody Green Bay will consider on day 3 if they haven't addressed edge rusher at all and they're looking to. I think he becomes the pick there for them. Now, 2 picks left for Green Bay. I think one of them probably needs to be offensive line. And I think the guy that they're going to pick on the offensive line is there. They have met with him. If we want to go linebacker, I think there are some options. I don't love all of them. I know, again, Sean Dolak, the grades are awesome. He's a little bit undersized at the position, yes. I think he's like 222 to 224. But, man, it's difficult to pass up a player like this. McDuffie's a little bit smaller too, right? You look at him as, I think, 6'1", 227. But as long as he's built to help out and be physical against the run, let's do that. Let's draft Sean Dolak here, and then we're going to draft who the Packers have met with, Esa Pole, who has, some good reps as a pass protector, right? He's got two years of experience at left tackle. I think that's going to be something where Pole is going to be, in consideration for Green Bay in round 7 and probably as a priority undrafted free agent should he not be picked. So we're going to make that pick there for Green Bay, take Pole at the end. So there you go. First mock draft in the books here of just staying and picking. PFF liked it for the most part. They don't seem to like the Derek Harmon pick anymore. That's weird. But Harmon, Porter, Jalen Royals, Noel Williams, Kyle Williams, Fadil Diggs, Sean Dolak, and Asa Pole. Let's move to the second mock draft. All right, guys, here we go with the second mock draft for the Packers here. We're going to be doing some trades in this one. Most likely trade down a couple times, maybe move up for a player. It's just going to depend, right, on how things go. So got 5 offers here. Cleveland's an offer I usually like because it usually affords you 67, especially if you give up a little bit more on day 3, like 198. And I think based on who's available, right, Nolan, Harmon, all of these guys, I think it's worth making this move down. I think there's a lot of players that Green Bay can consider. And I think this works out perfectly, right? Harmon is not available. He goes to Philly. Nolan, right? I think this works out nicely because this gives me the opportunity to go get the player I think would be great even at 23. Obviously, it'd be great in this trade down as well. Is Trey Amos, the corner from Mississippi, who I think, in man coverage, impressed man. I think he has the size and the length to handle that, but I think he really does a great job, from off coverage, in zone or off man where he's matching, right? Like a lot of that is really strong. Closing speed's good. He affects the catch point, right? He gets into good position. He's fast enough to kind of handle anything thrown his way. His pass rating allowed has been pretty good, right? Sub 80 in 22 and 23, and then goes down to 54 in 2024. I'm impressed with what I've seen from Amos, and I think he is the pick here for Green Bay at 33. Now we've got a lot going on day 2. This is a weird situation, right? That you get yourself in here in the second, simply because you've gone corner. Could Green Bay go Schlesinger? I think it's very possible. Okay, based on, again, he is not 225 if you're looking at PFF. He tested at 242. I'd be shocked if he's not playing closer like that, right? And there you go. So he was 242 at the combine. So, he is a really strong player in coverage. That's if you want to hand the keys off to Cooper or somebody else to play Mike linebacker in that scenario. I'm going to do something else. Again, I think receiver is still a priority here, and there's a lot that can be done with the defensive line in the mid rounds. Again, edge, don't really love what's available unless you like Kennard, which I think could also make sense here. Let's get the receiver. Let's get Trey Harris, who I think, again, these numbers are outrageous, yes. But again, remember the competition level, right? So I think him still being available in the second is within the realm of possibility. Because again, it was Furman, Middle Tennessee, Georgia Southern that he was really dominant against and played some solid ball the rest of his season. I think he's improving his route break transitions. I think he's sudden after the catch. He's still got that long stride. He can win at the catch point down the field, right? So he can still kind of be that deep threat. He just isn't the deep threat with elite speed. He's got more build-up speed, but he can do it. 1,000 yards in 8 games is pretty wild. But again, he's still been productive in his seasons at Mississippi, right? It's not just 2024. So I think this one makes sense. Let's go Trey Harris here for Green Bay. And let's see what we get at 67, because I think there will be, some options. Again, Kennard is just never available at that turn here. Could trade down again. 78. 78 and 115 to move down. That's pretty good if we want to do that. Let's see who's here at the moment. Again, running back, corner. Okay, I don't know how Ursary sticks around this long, to be honest. I think he's a pretty strong player overall. Let's do this, though. We're going to move down. We're going to try to find that sort of, this is where this this tier kind of ends, and we can get a player we like. That's good. They got Arizona goes and gets Ursary. That's good for them. Okay, so now we're up again here at 78 after that trade down. And I think offensive line could still come into play, right? Marcus Bowe could be your potentially a guard or long-term center for you. Charles Grant has that sort of game to him as well, potential long-term tackle. Here's where I'm going to stray, I think, a little bit. This might work. We haven't done anything on the defensive line yet. And again, Elijah Roberts is bigger, and I think he could provide some of that help along the defensive line. He's listed as an edge at 290. I think you're going to get him more playing on the interior, which I think could be really, really interesting. So let's take Elijah Roberts here, and then we'll see what defensive line has for us after that. I like that move, and we might still get the player I want anyway. Yep. So, no, he went before. Oh, he did. He went before 78. Never mind. Take 2 on that. No, yeah. So, again, Dion Walker, I really would like to find a space for him. Jamari Caldwell's probably a nose tackle, but maybe we wait a little bit on that. There are still some guys along the defensive line that I would like later. Here we can go a little bit outside the box if we'd like to, which I think is probably worth it here. We've already taken Kyle Williams. I would love to do it again, but let's think a little bit outside the box. We have one tight end. Green Bay's, hoping for more from Luke Musgrave, but I think it'd be really fun to add a player like Harold Fannin Jr. here, simply because, right, if you want a player this is your Josiah DeGuara perhaps that you really, really wanted to work out, right? He's got a little bit of awkward movement skills, but his feel for zone coverage, his field IQ is super, super good. And the production is off the charts, right? You don't see a lot of tight ends coming to the league at 1,555-yard seasons and 10 touchdowns, right? It's kind of unheard of. So I think you go get a player like that. And again, what do you do against top competition, right? And I know PFF grades aren't everything, right? But you look at Penn State and A&M, insanely high grades. He was productive in those games. So we're going to take that swing here at 87, and hopefully you get something you like down the road here in the 4th. Okay. So again, Kyle Williams somehow sticks around, and I don't want to pick him twice, but we're inching toward that territory right now. So, and we have 5 more picks. Yeah, I think I think one of them is going to be, obviously defensive line has to be addressed, and it will be. And offensive line, I think at least one player should be part of this. So I know one tech isn't something Green Bay likes to take until day 3. Good news. It's day 3. And I think even if Caldwell is somebody perhaps they don't want, I could still consider that. However, oh no, wait a minute. Let's peel back for a second. We said Elijah Roberts is playing defensive line. So Green Bay needs edge help, and we're going to go get Ahmed Hassanin here, who started playing football in 2018, right? And, you know, the production's pretty impressive, honestly. 24 sacks the last 2 seasons. It's hard to, and again, it was against a lower level conference for sure, but to see that kind of production and think, okay, like that's somebody we can really build up as he's continuing to learn the game, I think would be really good here. So let's do that. And I know it looks like we have 2 edge rushers. I think Elijah Roberts plays on the interior for Green Bay. And again, we get to double down here at corner. I think, again, we already took Noel. I'm going to take Quincy Riley. I know it's early. According to PFF, I don't care. I think he can play in the slot. I think he can play on the boundary, right? Green Bay could still be, looking for 2 players in this draft class to do so. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. We're going to reach again. We're going to get 1 offensive lineman, I think, in every draft because I think it's important to do so. We're going to take Logan Brown here at 159. Again, I know it's early, but I think you see a player with guard tackle versatility, and I think that would be very, very helpful, depending on all these extensions that are going to be coming up for Green Bay, right? Maybe, right guard isn't solved just yet. If Jordan Morgan's moving over, then maybe Logan Brown, who I know has played mostly right tackle, maybe he kicks inside to right guard. So I think that a very, very big possibility there. Now, 2 picks left. I think one of them we can go receiver. And I think this is a player who I think a lot of people are starting to talk about more for Green Bay. And that's Andrew Armstrong, who, again, isn't the most dynamic. You can look at, Trey Harris to maybe be more of the big play guy. Armstrong might be more of that, hey, let's take a chance on a guy who could be that potential chain mover. So we're going to go Andrew Armstrong here. And then to finish up this mock draft, I think we go linebacker or we go defensive line. And we know we already picked Dolak. I think linebacker is going to be something in undrafted free agency you could go get. It's 3 players on the defensive line. I know that's a lot, but man, Ty Robinson, I think is an extremely, extremely fun selection here at the end of this one. So we traded back twice. We didn't really get to move up, but I think it still lands us a pretty strong draft here. You get Trey Amos, you get Trey Harris, Elijah Roberts, Harold Fannin Jr., Ahmed Hassanin, Quincy Riley, Logan Brown, Andrew Armstrong, and Ty Robinson. So there you go. 2 mock drafts, 1 with no trades, and then 1 with a couple moves back that actually I think net Green Bay just maybe 1 extra selection. So, I think both of them show you that, again, you can go defensive line early and kind of cement that early. You can go corner early. I think there's going to be a lot of corners in that range of 25 to 40 that are going to be impactful players. Your Savone Ravels, your Trey Amos, Azareye'h Thomas, right? So Green Bay's going to have options, right? The key is, of course, making sure in that trade down that you find somebody who's willing to come up, right? That's going to be, I think, the theme of this draft is everybody's going to be wanting to move down. How many people are going to be actually able to? So Cleveland might be one of those teams, or the Giants, where they're coming up for the QB after they passed early on. So I hope you guys enjoyed these 2 Packers mock drafts for Mock Draft Monday. If you did, throw a like down there. Subscribe if you're new. Plenty of draft content on the channel already, but plenty more to come. So I hope you guys stick around for that. I will catch you guys in the next video. Farewell.